Welcome to the Lugar Series, a seat at the table, a podcast where we talk about leadership and impact by pulling up a chair and leaning into intentional conversation. Each episode highlights the impact of our alumni and friends who have helped shape and expand the table for women across Indiana. I'm Ann Hathaway, Executive Director of the Lugar Series, and today I'm honored to be joined by Melissa Proffitt, one of my dear friends. Melissa is a 1996 graduate of the Lugar Series, a former board president, and someone who is still very active in the program today. Professionally, Melissa is a partner at Ice Miller, focusing on client relations, and she serves in leadership positions among many boards and committees, not only in Indianapolis, but throughout Indiana. Melissa, thanks for taking time to be with us today. I'm excited to talk to you and share some of your stories. Obviously, I want to talk about your leadership and all the things that you have done and involved in the decision-making process, but I'm not sure everybody knows your story. So tell us a little bit about you and how you ended up as an attorney at Ice Miller.
So I would say that path started in middle school.
Really?
Where I was, as you know, incredibly close to my dad and talking about what I might want to do when I grow up someday. And I had the conversation with him and said, you know what, I think I really might want to be a nurse or a paralegal. And as he always did in the simplest terms, would just say something like, well, Missy, honey, why not a doctor and a lawyer? Mm-hmm. And I thought, well, I don't know why. And that's really interesting to think about now because I truly was thinking paralegal and nurse. Mm-hmm. And so...
was that a sign of the times?
Yeah. Even, I mean... It's not just that generation before us, right? Mm-hmm. It's me. Mm-hmm. And so, and it wasn't, that never came from my dad.
Right.
Like your dad.
Right.
He was always, you can do it, you can handle it, go for it. So it didn't come from him, but I think it probably came from society.
And culture.
Culture. So high school chemistry hit. I worked my tail off and got a B minus, and I thought, well, med school's out for me. If I can't handle, seriously, high school chemistry and like knock it out of the park, that'll be a problem. So I just pivoted toward law. And back then, if you wanted to be a lawyer, you were a political science major, period, which was fine with me because I liked poli-sci. And I decided to double major in forensics, and that was long before CSI or any of that kind of stuff.
I had no idea. Forensics.
Yeah. Well, I took a couple of classes and got really high A's in them, and I'm like, this will help my GPA. So I double majored and, went to IU and totally intended to go to my dad's law firm. He had a small 20-person law firm in Hamilton County, Noblesville, and Carmel, when Carmel was truly a four-way stop, right at Range Line and in Main Street. He had the top office, two rooms above the bank, and I really thought that I would end up at his firm. Interviewed and realized, having gone to North Central High School, 1,200 in my one graduating class, that I didn't want to go to a small town like Noblesville and Carmel to practice law. And so I interviewed my third year after clerking at my dad's firm and fell in love with Ice Miller. The people there were so normal and different and had a lot of personality. And it would be funny when I was interviewing Ann, every night I'd come home and my dad would know every law firm I interviewed with and every person that I interviewed with, and he'd want to know what I thought and what his views were, and he would never say one thing other than listen. And at the very end, when I told him I was going to Ice Miller, his response was, you know what, there are so many amazing lawyers in this town, so many good law firms, but when it comes to your personality, I think Ice Miller is the perfect fit for you. And in fact, I interviewed there when I came back from Kansas City, and they didn't have any openings, and that's how I ended up at Campbell Cowell Proffitt, which was his small firm. So it all sort of came around, and so that's how I ended up in law.
So he didn't push you through the process.
Not at all.
He let you go through it, and then he shared that story with you.
Yeah.
Wow.
And he wasn't upset at all that I wasn't going into his firm and taking over.
Yeah.
That was the original game plan, and he was just hugely supportive.
That's so cool. You had such a close relationship with your dad, and I know he was a real mentor for you. When you looked at the folks at Ice Miller as you were going through the interview process, were there a lot of women at the firm at that time?
So there actually were. We had a surprising number of female partners compared to other law firms. And what was really great about these women was that they were rock stars. They were truly as good of lawyers and commanded as much of a presence as any male.
Wow.
And going back into history, there was the first female partner at Ice Miller was a litigator, and Harry Ice absolutely adored her, thought she walked on water, treated her as an equal. And that just opened doors for so many other really successful women to go there and feel comfortable there. So it was a unique time where there were so many female partners compared to other law firms. So it felt very comfortable and very supportive.
That's awesome. So one of the things I admire most about you is that you've been able to figure out balance between practicing law, but also being involved in the community. And it's something that you're known for and that you've received a number of awards for. And did that come just naturally to you? Was that something that the firm helped you get involved in? How did you figure it out? Because every lawyer that I knew coming out of college and out of law school into the world was so worried about their billable hours and making partner. And, the community's happening, but they're not necessarily engaged in anything that doesn't impact their bottom line. And you've been very magnanimous about all the things you've gotten involved with because they're all been about the core of the city, the state. How have you been able to do that?
So this is a super important question because I'm seeing a retreat from this next generations in terms of their interest in engaging in the community. So when I started at the firm, it was all one thing. How in the world do I learn to be a lawyer? Law school, I didn't like law school. I didn't hate it, but I didn't like it.
Something you had to get through, right?
Yeah, I had to get, it was a means to an end. And then the first several years at the law firm were really hard. Really, really hard. I didn't know what I was doing. I had very little self-confidence, and I just was head down trying to learn how to practice law and how to be a good lawyer. So there was no community involvement, etc. I needed to focus on becoming a partner and how to be a good lawyer. So I spent all my time, energy in that direction. And I needed to. That was a phase of my life that's where I needed to focus.
Did you become a mom during that period of time as well?
I did. So it was this, I made partner in 6 years, and I had Madeline, my first, within a year after that.
Wow.
So then the family started growing, and I have a total of 3. So I had Madeline, then about 2.5 later, I had Nicholas, and then about 4 years later, I had Samantha. So it was busy.
That's an intense 12 years.
It was really busy. And so what I was doing was learning to be a lawyer, and then I pivoted somewhat into firm leadership at the same time.
Okay.
And so there were a lot of opportunities to step up and be on committees and serve on search committees and interview, associates and things like that. And not every lawyer wants to do that. Not every lawyer wants to be involved in management. Not every lawyer wants to be involved in recruiting. Frankly, most want to just practice law.
Right.
They're analytical creatures. Some like people, some don't, but they just sort of want to do what they're doing. And I was very interested in the leadership side, so expanded from focusing on the practice of law to the practice of law and being involved in the firm.
So did someone see that you had these leadership skills and invite you and draw you into it? Or is this something that you wanted to do and you leaned into it, or both?
I would say both. Initially, the ask was made. I didn't know enough or wasn't confident enough to make the ask myself. And so people would, ask, do you want to be on this committee? Would you like to do this? Would you like to do that? And first of all, I always said yes. And I was always interested. And I really liked it. I really like people. And I like being around people.
You're one of the most curious people I know.
Well, it's just fun to...
Yeah, you like to learn. And you love people and want to know their stories.
And you have some lawyers that are great with clients, and some, hopefully all of them, and then some that are great with partners.
Right.
And then some that aren't so good with peers. And then some that aren't so good delegating. I mean, there's a lot going on where you've got to manage yourself up, manage yourself down. And by that, I mean just in terms of levels of authority, and then externally with the clients. And I just like I liked them all. I loved my peers. I respected them. I really admired and looked up to my bosses. The clients, they could be really not very nice sometimes, and I sort of didn't care. I just like, okay, how can I make this better? And so the people element of it, I think, helped as well because I liked doing those kinds of things. And I look back, if I were to sit at my desk and practice law for the last decades, I'd go crazy.
That's not your personality.
I just needed more, and I liked it, and I would follow through. You know, I'd say I'd do something and I'd follow through, and I'd work really hard, and they say jump and I'd say how high.
Right.
And so it was a win-win. It was, I think they felt like I did a good job, and I really appreciated the opportunity and liked doing it.
Right. Was there one moment or one yes that led to the door opening, or has this been, one thing at a time, or is there a moment where the light bulb went off and you went, I figured out how to have the best of both worlds with regard to practicing law and getting involved?
So I think there was one opportunity that I had when I was about a 6-year associate becoming partner. We had a major client that we had acquired, and the firm gave me, I was by far the youngest, the opportunity to run a piece of it. And I probably spent the next 3 years, 95% of my time on this one client.
Wow.
And I just put my all into it. And I loved it. And it was a client that had, at one point we had 100 lawyers billing this client. It was huge. It was everything: intellectual property, benefits, labor, corporate, litigation, you name it. And I became the point person with that client.
Wow.
And so what that did was two things. One, and you know this from campaigns, you do a great job with one. There were 4 more clients like that. They were General Motors spinoffs that came, and I got all of them. And so from a professional standpoint, it was incredible for me to have that opportunity. So like if you run a campaign and you knock it out of the park, you get that next really important campaign, and then you knock it out of the park. It sort of rolls downhill once you get it up the hill. And so that happened to me, but because I played that outside general counsel role, I learned a whole lot about the firm. I learned about our intellectual property lawyers and how they differ so much from our M&A lawyers and our litigators, how they're all different breeds of dogs and cats, how the areas are successful because of completely different ways of approaching things, how they bring in business, et cetera. And, I was a benefits lawyer. I was in front of an HR team. Doing that gave me an opportunity to be in front of the CFOs and the CEOs. So that broad experience then led to the ability or the interests of the community. So I could sit on a chamber board with Dennis Murphy at IU Health and feel like I was not an equal, but you know what I'm saying. I had this experience, even though I'm a benefits lawyer, because of this that happened. I have this experience now that I can see things broadly and strategically. So I'd say that one major client at the outset opened doors not only within the firm professionally for me and from a leadership perspective as well within the firm, it also led to that interest in the community.
People knew you, and then the opportunities to serve in other ways, you were invited.
Right.
But the balance is as women, do we wait to be asked or do we lean in? Would you say that it was a little bit of both for you?
Very much. You cannot wait to be asked. And this was something I learned over time. Once again, I was incredibly insecure, unsure of myself, didn't know what I was doing. And I wasn't one of those people that first semester of law school, I made straight A's. It was the complete opposite. I warm into things and learn how to do things. But you have to be thoughtful and determined and plan and organize sort of what you want. So when it came to, fast forward to the community, there were just certain boards and organizations I admired and respected the people that were on those boards. I admired what those boards were doing. I care so much about Indianapolis and the chambers, for instance, just moving the city forward, that I was thinking, how can I become a part of that? You know, what can I do? And I got a lot of opportunities, which I know a lot of people don't have from my firm, where partners would say, I'm ready to go off the Indy Chamber board. Melissa, do you want to do this? I'd be like, yes.
Yeah.
You know,
So
please.
did you make a list of boards, or did you just have in the back of your head?
More in the back of my head.
I just wondered, because some people do it differently. And I think that my sense is that you already kind of had a sense.
Yeah.
And the opportunities kind of came timing wise in a way that made sense.
And it wasn't, I'm a super planned and organized person, similar to you, but you can't plan and organize opportunities. I mean, you can to a degree. And so I do think it's important to be thoughtful. And, you know, I let my partners know what I was interested in, that I wanted to do these kinds of things. I let people in the community know that. But you can't just sit back and wait, because there's going to be other people that are going to do that. They're going to say, I would love to be involved with this. And they're going to be like, a lot of people, wow, that's great. Come on.
So one of the things I know about you is that you are a preparer, that whether it be your clients, whether the organization is involved, you're very prepared. And I know that you're involved in a lot of things. You're a wife, you're a mother, yet you have time to have fun. How have you figured out how to balance your time to be as prepared as you want to be for what you want for who you are, but yet to find time to laugh?
So I have always, and this went a little bit into my decision about med school too, I have always worked incredibly hard, but I have always played really hard too. I can't.
You have to have both.
I have to have both. And I saw, it sort of validated my decision about not going into med school. I saw my friends that did go into med school. They didn't go to the barn dance. They didn't go to the football games. They missed a lot. And in fact, now being married to a doctor, he missed about 14 years of his life.
Wow.
I mean, just all your 20s and into your 30s. Just missed it. And I didn't want to do that. I am willing to put in the time and work really, really hard, but I really need to have fun. In terms of the balance, I feel this message is incredibly important. Women can have it all. You cannot have it every day. You are going to mess up. You're going to blow something at work. You're going to get upset with your teenage child and say things you totally regret. You're not going to be the best spouse. I mean, you're just not going to be able to do it right every day. And in fact, you may have phases and time periods where things just aren't clicking. That being said, I do think if you tend to be an organized person, it helps you a lot. I was very fortunate. Once again, I know a lot of people don't have this opportunity. I had the firm behind me. I had 2 full-time assistants. I had a copy center. I had a tech team where I can't get my computer to work and they would come in and fix it. You know, I don't know what I'm going to do when I retire. I'm not going to be able to function. But I also had support. And so, and I had supportive husband. So.
Well, you make it look easy, which I know it's not.
It's not easy. I mean, it's not easy, and I don't want anybody to think it's easy, but it is very doable. I mean, think about all the things you juggle. It's doable.
It's doable.
You've got to want it.
Yeah. What I know about you is you need less sleep than I do. So as I think about your career, I think about what you're involved in the community. Over the course of your career, you've developed a leadership style. And what would you say is the definition of your leadership style?
I would say that I am action-oriented. I want to get things done, and to a level where I'm impatient, which is not a good quality. It's not a good quality because sometimes it's best to hit delete and let something go away.
Right.
Sometimes it's best to be really more reflective. And I have to make myself sort of be that way. And so I like being with people, working with people that are a little bit slower paced, a little bit more reflective. I think I am bold in that I gravitate more toward taking on new challenges and doing new things as opposed to keeping this well-run thing running and going, and which is very, very important. I'd rather take on new initiatives. Like, I went on a couple trade missions and came back and started an ag practice, started an energy practice. Probably 25 years ago, we were the first law firm to hire non-lawyers to help. I saw it, in other businesses. And so I like doing things that are a little bit bolder. And then it's really best. Then I step out and let someone else then take over. So it's more of a direct sort of bold.
It's an entrepreneurship mentality to some extent.
Yeah, I never thought of it that way, but maybe you're right. Yeah.
So I never think of you as a caretaker leader. Like when you go into a leadership role, I always think that you come in not necessarily with knowing what your intention is, but yet knowing that you're going to be able to add value. Is that fair?
Yeah. I mean, when you say caretaker, what I'm not good at is, for instance, whether it's at the law firm or on a board, training. Now, not mentoring's different to me. Training and teaching and explaining and all of that. There are other people at the firm that are so much better at that because they just really enjoy that. I'm sort of ready to go. I think that I probably, it goes back to the impatience, which is it's really, the older I get, the more I think it's a curse than a blessing. I used to think, well, my impatience has allowed me to accomplish a lot of things and do a lot of things. And I don't know that it's a quality that's a positive one. And it's one that I have to sort of fight.
Is that one of those leadership traits that you continue to learn from every day with regard to how to handle and manage?
Yeah.
Would that be the number one?
I would say the main leadership trait that I'm trying to manage through, because it's just that you don't have to get everything done right now, this moment, and you don't have to be 100% right.
So one of the things I struggle with on a day-to-day basis is fake deadlines. Like a client or someone will say, well, I need that by close of business tomorrow, without any respect for my calendar or what I'm working on. It's like, oh, just get it done. How do you deal with that?
So unfortunately, in the legal profession, you have to deal with it every single day. And with technology, it's even worse.
Yes.
So in the old days, literally, we had word processors and you'd get a brief and you'd have time to think about it because literally you had to write it out. The secretary had to type it up. Then you had to either mail it or, we started to get fax machines. I mean, that's how long ago this was. And so you had, it was a blessing, time to think. Now you don't. And clients want answers right now, all the time. And technology is, even encouraged that further. And
they don't care what's on your calendar, right?
They don't care
what you have planned and what meetings you have to take.
They don't care at all. And if you don't do it, there are countless law firms out there that will. So in our profession, you just have to do it. Now, what I find myself doing is at times having to babysit my lawyers. Have you responded to this? Have you gotten to this? Have you done this? And that I find somewhat frustrating.
So when in the legal profession did you really switch from being a lawyer trying to get to the table and earn your stripes to being a manager?
Okay, so that comes
because they're different personality traits and responsibilities.
That progresses over the first 6 years that you're a lawyer. So you start off as a lawyer doing the project, trying to get the A+ on that single project or big project, small project, whatever. Then that goes to the partner, and the partner evaluates it, questions it, marks it up, says it's great, brings in other pieces from other expertise, and then takes that to the client. So you start off as a total individual doing a project that you give to someone else. By the time you're a partner, you have to have demonstrated multiple times that you're able to manage and run the project as a whole bring in all those pieces from different associates and paralegals, put it together, and then present it to the client in a way that they need.
They teach you that, or do you just learn it on your own?
I learned it by watching others, and that's where I worry about remote work. I literally was in at 7:30 in the morning, and I had a female, amazing, brilliant mentor, teacher. I would watch her. I'd sit in on phone calls. I'd drive in the car with her 2 to 3 hours to go to client meetings, pick her brain, watch her conduct meetings. I watched her and others do it, and that's how I learned to do it. It wasn't anything that was taught. It was by observing.
It's the same way for me in politics, but there weren't women for me to watch. I had to learn from the men, and then I had to figure out how to do it differently, because if I acted the way they did,
it wouldn't have been allowed.
Well, I would have been, I'm going to say this, I'd have been a bitch. And, that wouldn't have been acceptable. And so it was like trying to figure out how to put velvet on that to get it done and to do it forcefully. And I think that it's similar for you. So, okay, you become this leader. And as you think back over your time as a leader, is there one defining moment or one thing that sticks in your head that you learn from and that you continue to draw on, or has it just been a compilation of things?
I'd say it's been a compilation of things over time. I mean, I really believe our life is a bunch of different phases where, you've got to focus on this for a while, and then you focus on that, and it changes. You learn from, different mistakes that you made. One thing that I've learned over time, and I was a young managing partner. I was young. It was only about a third of the way through my career. There was a lot I didn't know. Because there was a lot I didn't know, I felt like I had to know everything. And so when I came to presenting a strategic plan or presenting something, I believed I had to be so prepared that I could answer every question in order to ensure that I continued to have credibility. That's just not what any good leader can do or should do. They don't have answers to all the questions. They make mistakes all the time. And I took input, but they take input. I can remember with Susan Brooks when she was elected to Congress. So I've known Susan forever. We went to law school together. I hired her at Ice Miller when she didn't have a job. She's a good friend. And I remember going to one of her first events, and if she said, I don't know the answer to that, once, she said it 100 times. And I was frozen. I'm like, oh my God, Susan, you can't say you don't know the answer. Well, you know what? She didn't know the answer. She was brand new, and they loved her. Her people loved her. Her constituents to this day love her and miss her.
And politically, we tell people to say, don't fake it, don't lie, say you don't know, then you'll go back to them.
So she was comfortable being vulnerable, and I wasn't early on. I was afraid to not be 100% prepared. And I think what I did in hindsight in doing that, I probably edged people out. I edged out the collaboration. I edged out bringing people to the table. So that's something with time that I've learned, is that really good leaders don't have all the answers. I mean, they're prepared, and they are smart, and they work hard, but they don't have all the answers, and I felt like I was supposed to.
So your leadership style changed during the course of
Very
your career. Much. And so do you remember the defining moment, or was it over a period of time? Because as women, we don't accept that we have to change.
Yeah. I think it was more over time.
Right.
And candidly, conversations with good friends about things like this, such as you and Teresa and Judy, over the years, talking about and watching others. As you know, you learn so much from looking at other leaders that you really respect and how they handle a room and how they handle a difficult situation. And so I just continued to observe and watch others and try to figure out, how can I still feel like I'm not letting people down and I'm a quality person on the subject? Because as a lawyer, I had to be right? As a leader, you don't have to be right. And in fact, you can't be right. It's just, it's not possible.
So. I love the way you define this. And it's also interesting because I know that you and I have been on a number of panels and spoken together. I actually got a note this week from a woman congratulating me in Indy 250. And she referenced a panel discussion that you and I did at the Indie Chamber in maybe 6 years ago. And she said, you didn't know it then, but the conversation that you and Melissa had actually impacted my life and helped me to think through some things. And I think about it all the time.
Wow.
And so I don't even know that we appreciate the roles, the mentorship that we provide for others. And so you talked about the woman lawyer at the firm who you learned from. Obviously you do that at the firm today. How consciously do you engage in mentorship, and how much of it is informal and you don't even know it's happening?
So it's so funny you just mentioned what you did about the experience you had in the last week or two, because I had a similar experience. I mentor all the time. And by that, I mean, anybody who calls me and wants to have breakfast, lunch, or drinks, I will do it. I don't care who they are. I'll meet them all the time. And
I do the same thing.
My
husband
husband at times is like, why are you meeting with all these people?
My team says that. Why was that longer than an hour? And I'm like, well.
But I think what's really sort of cool about mentoring, when someone mentors you, you will remember it the rest of your life. If there's something that was impactful or something that pivoted you a certain way or whatever. But when you're the one mentoring, you have no idea. You may not even, sometimes remember exactly where that breakfast was or what was said. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not being dismissive or saying it didn't matter, but what you got to remember, it's like giving back to the community. The gift is to you. It is not to the other person. By being able to mentor someone, it is just such a wonderful gift. And I would not be where I am and anywhere close to where I am if it weren't for a whole list of people who were wonderful to me, who took time out for me, who cared about me, who worried about me. And I want to do the same for people, because I know I would be without those mentors and help.
100%. And I also know that there weren't a lot of people for me to call at certain times in my career.
Especially in your area.
Yeah. And because it was so competitive, there weren't a lot of women. And so I want to be a resource for people because I didn't have that. And also I had an experience early on where I asked somebody for advice, and they didn't give me advice for me. They gave me advice for where it would be helpful for them, for me to be for a job. And so people ask me sometimes, why don't I ask for more advice? Well, you don't always know everybody's agendas.
Right.
And so what I want to do is come to those conversations, not with my intent, but I want to be able to listen and hear what others need and be able to help them, take that information and help with their journey. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. And it's a hard thing too, I think, when you have people, it's nothing my husband always says, I think they're using you. I'm like, God, if I thought like you did, I would be a really unhappy person, because he tends to see that sort of sometimes the negative that I don't see. That's another thing too of just, and this, I'm still doing this in my head, that's not you.
Right.
That's that person.
Yep.
And they're the one they're never going to get out of it what they should get out of it, and they're never going to have anybody invest in them. So that's their shortfall.
Right.
Yeah, maybe that was a wasted moment.
But it was a great learning opportunity for me, and it really pushes me to think differently with regard to the counsel I give.
Right.
So I know this happens sometimes to me, but I know it happens to you more often. People come up to you and they go, I want to be you. What's the career path? What do I do? How do I get to be you? They don't have any appreciation or understanding for all the work, all the sacrifice, all the things you've missed. So what do you tell them?
It's pretty much, I think you have to work. I think you need to be smart enough. Okay. And most everybody we know is smart enough. You have to work really, really, really hard. I just never said no to anything. And that's not a recipe that's good for everybody. But, I think you just say yes to most things, because once again, you can't predict where, if you go to that event and you meet this person, how that might lead to something. Like, I can remember I was with Randy Bohr at a political fundraiser. He introduces me to Jim Marcuselli. Jim meets me and we talk for 15 minutes, and the next thing I know, he asked me to be on the Star Bank board. You know, those kinds of things. You just never know. So I just think, and also high integrity. You got to stand behind your word. High integrity, work hard, head down. And I think the other thing too is I have allowed historically for my losses to really affect me too much. I think that I can remember running for something at the firm and I didn't get it, and I was devastated and I was embarrassed, right? Everybody knew I ran, I didn't get it, and nobody cared. I mean, you know, it mattered to me, but it didn't matter to any of the other people there. They could care less. They didn't, you know, they weren't even, if they even knew it happened, they didn't care about it. And so I think a lot of times we magnify on ourselves things that really doesn't matter to the average person. And so move on, and it's not fatal. Just move on.
So I always tell people we learn more from losing than we do from winning. So was that the lesson of losing with regard to, okay, I need to not take it so seriously?
I did through that I battle myself.
Yes.
Battle myself to quit taking things so seriously and not worry about when you put your hat in the ring. So this is what I love about the Lugar Series. I can remember to this day, I think it was like in 96 when I interviewed, it was a 5-minute interview and I could hardly breathe. I could hardly get up in the morning. I was so nervous. I was so scared, etc. You know, fortunately I got in, but a lot of times you don't, and you come back and it's great, right? It doesn't, if I hadn't, okay, try next year. You know what I mean? It just, I think when you're younger and more inexperienced, you don't understand how this is going to just fit in and go away.
Yep.
And it's not going to matter.
Right.
And it's also going to be a part of your learning process, like you said.
Absolutely. I want to talk more about your Lugar Series experience because you've been a huge champion, but I want to go back to one other question as relates to your engagement. Is there anything that you think about that you say, I spent too much time on that? I spent too much time on that project and it didn't add any value? Or do you really see a win in everything you've done?
So I would say probably, Anne, I've spent too much time on almost everything I've done. In reflection. You don't know that for sure, but let me give you an example. A piece of legislation would be passed, right? And it's 3 columns, single pages, 200 pages long.
You'd read all.
I would read all of it. That would be my vacation on the beach. Instead of a book, I'd be reading that, highlighting it, etc. Because it's a new piece of legislation. I need to be prepared for my clients to answer their questions. You need to know enough to issue spot. You don't need to know the whole frickin' thing because the client may never ask you the question ever.
Right.
So I think that throughout the majority of my career, I have over-prepared, and I would always make the excuse to myself, well, that had I not done that, I could have faltered. Or had I not done that, I would have maybe gotten the B- instead of the A. I don't know that that's true. I think there is a true element of trying to manage yourself so that you don't waste time over-preparing. And I doubt anybody ever really says that, but I think there are many times throughout my life I over-prepared, and I could have spent that time more wisely doing it either personally with my family, doing something else, whatever. So I think I sort of over-prepare
I totally
in
get
general.
it. I totally get it because I'm like the person that has to stay and read the whole thing and understand it because I don't know what nuance they're going to come at. And if I've only read the top lines, then maybe I'll miss that nuance.
Right. Right. And I feel like I need to have all the answers. And once again, you don't. So I'm still battling with myself in my mind about that.
Totally understand it. So you've had this great career. You've been involved in a lot of things. What led you to applying to the Lugar Series?
So it was a male partner at the firm, Buddy Downs, who...
He's a Democrat.
Yeah. Who's like, Melissa, I think we did the legal work to start the series. He goes, this is going to be a great program. You should do this. I'd like to nominate you. Would you be interested? And I remember my father, small town, Carmel, Indiana, Noblesville, Indiana, very involved in politics, loved the political scene. His best friends were politicians that he engaged with. His secretary became the first female mayor of Carmel, Dottie Hancock. So I saw my dad's life in politics, small scale, local, loved it. And Buddy recommended this. And once again, I'm like, I knew nothing. I hadn't been involved. I'm like, okay, so I will do this. And
did you know Judy and Teresa at that point?
Didn't know them at all. And I cannot tell you how much that series has completely changed my trajectory, my life, my friendships.
How so? Be more specific about that.
Well, okay, so I came in through the class. I'll never forget the first class session at Teresa's house, where one of the participants talking about how her husband has abused her. And another one was talking about how she ran for this office in county government, and I didn't even know what the office was, and how she won, and then how she lost. I mean, I'm hearing all of these things that were I just hadn't been exposed to this kind of stuff. And we're all having a glass of wine and talking, and it's like this community. It's like these friends. Then I go through the class, and I learn everything because I had no baseline knowledge. And just understood, in 9 months, you find out something that would take 5 years to learn, through a lunch here or a breakfast there or whatever. And then Judy and Teresa treat me like I am like a good equal friend to them. I'm fortunate enough to be the class, person on the board, and we're off to the races. They treated me, and I will always remember this, and I will always do the same, as if I was, they were each other. And then I developed all of these friendships, and y'all gave me great leadership opportunities, in terms of being president. I was on the board for 20 years. I mean, bad governance, but I cannot tell you, it totally opened my eyes to the political world. It totally opened my eyes to be involved in campaigns and support individuals that I really believe in. But for the Lugar Series, my entire trajectory would have been completely different. It would have been much more narrow, much more focused just at the firm and probably just the nonprofit community. But politics, it affects everything.
It does.
Absolutely everything. And so if you're talking about what you want to achieve at the Indy Chamber with regard to homelessness or with regard to fill in the blank, government's involved, businesses involved. And so it allowed me to be just a broader person with broader perspective. It was incredible. It was amazing. And thank you, Buddy Downs.
Absolutely. Did you ever think about running for office?
I did, a couple different times. But I decided, I think I really like where I am, sort of being the supporter of individuals that I really believe in, really working as hard as I can, either on their campaign or in their administration, et cetera. My husband says I wouldn't eat, I wouldn't sleep, and I would waste away to nothing. So I'd worry too much. And I think that's probably fair. There's a lot of things you can't control, and I admire so many people that are in public service. It's a hard job.
But I think that's one of the beauties of the Lugar Series is that you identify all the different opportunities to engage in public service, and then you can figure out which one makes the most sense for your personality, your family. And you mentioned it earlier in our interview today, but the relationships, it's something we really, really talk about because we as women tend to be individuals. But that forces us to grow relationships, and those relationships become so important, not only professionally, but personally.
Well, in the Lugar Series, I've always said this, are the best of women. I have never seen someone associated with the Lugar Series not support another woman from the Lugar Series. I mean, it's the best of us coming through, and you always see a smiling face and a helping hand and someone who is there to support and help you.
If someone were to come to you today and say, I want to apply to the Lugar Series, what would you tell them?
Oh my gosh. Yes. And get it done today, not tomorrow. And I always express it's the substance of what you're going to learn, and it will allow you to be educated about what role you want to play in public service. But equally important are the relationships and the lifelong friendships that you will have. I mean, you, Teresa, and Judy are three of my very best friends. It happened because of the Lugar Series. And so, and I admire and respect, and you've all done amazing things. And so it's such a blessing.
What I love about that is our friendship, is that we continue to learn from each other. We continue to push each other.
We do.
It's okay to disagree, and we kind of, stick out our elbows and get a little ruffled, but it pushes us to continue to be better and to explore our boundaries. And I think that's really critical to continue to grow.
I agree.
And I think that a lot of our Lugar Series women are seeing that in their individual groups and their individual classes. I'm fortunate enough to get a bigger overview and watch how they support each other and how they push each other out of their comfort zones. Some of them are running for office. Some of them are getting appointed to boards and commissions. And again, women had a tendency to be asked, and I think now that they are leaning in. And as you know, the Lugar Series was started, and we thought, oh, we'll be at parity in 10 years. 50% of the elected officials will be women. Well, we're obviously not there.
We're not there.
So we still have a lot of work to do.
And it's still a guys' network. It still is. And so what does that mean? That doesn't mean that men are overtly discriminating against women. It means that 80% of the people they know in leadership positions are men. So who are they going to recommend? From the 80% they know, less likely from the 20% they know. And so because of that, we have to be there. We have to be in front of both men and women.
Absolutely.
And that's a percentage, unfortunately, and I'm not saying the 80% is the right number, but that has not gone away and gotten better. In fact, the number of women over the State House, I believe, is less than it was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So that's not a good trajectory, and so we need this series still.
We absolutely do. And I could sit here today and talk to you for hours, and there's so many lessons of your career, of your leadership style, both at the firm, the things that you've done in politics, the things that you've done in community, that are great lessons and touchstones for other women. And I just want to say thank you for being with us today. But before we wrap up, I have a list of one-word question, or a list of questions that we always close with, that we ask our guests. They're supposed to be one-word answers, but candidly, I can't do anything in one word. So you can have 2 or 3 depending. So if you don't mind, I'm gonna ask these questions to you at the moment.
Okay.
How would you define your leadership style?
I would say bold.
What motivates you?
A voice in my head. It's an internal motivation.
What challenges you?
Inertia.
Indiana in one word.
Home.
A word for the current and next generation of women leaders.
2 words, if I can. Courage and integrity.
I love that. The Lugar Series in one word.
I said it earlier, blessing.
Melissa, thanks for joining us today. Please tune in every other Tuesday as we highlight more Lugar Series women, impactful real stories heard exclusively on the Lugar Series, a seat at the table. So pull up a chair and join us. And thanks again to Melissa for joining us today.